Apparently, a bunch of protests broke out in Ukraine yesterday after President Zelensky signed a controversial bill known as the, quote, Anti-Corruption Oversight Law bill. So the protests broke out on July 22nd to July 23rd of 2025 in a number of major cities, including Kiev, Odessa, Lviv, Kharkiv, and this is following the passage of that controversial bill by President Zelensky. Apparently, the demonstrations were some of the first significant wartime protests that have taken place since the full-scale invasion of 2022, primarily in response to the legislation that a lot of critics were arguing undermines the independence of key anti-corruption institutions. Now, the bill that was signed is actually called Bill 12414, also known as the Anti-Corruption Oversight Law, and was passed by Ukraine's parliament, which is referred to as the Verkhovna Rada. That's the name of Ukraine's parliament. And it was passed on July 22nd of 2025 with 263 votes in favor and only 13 votes against it. It was signed into law by President Zelensky shortly after, despite calls for a veto. And what the legislation does is it does a couple things. So it shifts oversight and control of anti-corruption investigations from independent bodies, such as the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, and it swaps it over to the Office of the Prosecutor General, which operates under the president's authority, meaning that if the president is under corruption investigation, the prosecutor general, which operates under the president's authority, is the one that's going to be investigating him. So it's like, we found nothing wrong after conducting a thorough investigation of ourselves kind of thing. I mean, this is a pretty common thing you see around all over the place. Key provisions to the law is that it grants the prosecutor general expanded powers to intervene in cases handled by the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, including the ability to approve or halt investigations, reassign cases, influence personal decisions, and then critics contend that this centralizes power and could enable political interference, potentially shielding high-level officials from scrutiny. Now, the government's justification for this, as far as like Zelensky's side of the fence and like why they decided to do this, was they framed the bill as a necessary measure to cleanse the anti-corruption system of alleged Russian influences and ensure more efficient justice.